The sky over Karis had always been wide and quiet, a soft blue that faded into silver near the horizon. Evan Hale stood on a low ridge of warm stone, his boots sinking slightly into the fine dust beneath him. The air smelled faintly of minerals and something sweet, like distant flowers carried on a slow breeze. He lifted his visor and breathed it in, smiling. Today was the day the twin moons would rise together. For the people of this world, it was a day of closed doors and covered windows. For Evan, it was the most exciting moment since he had landed. Behind him, Lyra stood very still. Her tall, slender form was wrapped in a pale cloak that fluttered at the edges. Her eyes, large and dark, were fixed on the sky, not with wonder but with worry. "You should not be here," she said softly. Her voice carried the gentle tones of her people, like wind moving through tall grass. "When the moons rise together, we stay inside. We do not watch." Evan turned toward her, his grin easy and warm. "I know you've told me, but this is a rare event. My instruments are ready. This kind of alignment could teach us a lot about your planet's gravity fields, light bending, maybe even time effects." Lyra's fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. "It is not about science, it is about what follows." Evan walked closer, trying to read her expression. "What follows is a beautiful sky show, maybe some strange readings, that's it." Lyra shook her head. "Every time they rise together, something changes. The world feels thinner." He laughed gently, not in mockery, but in comfort. "Lyra, I've been to planets with storms that last for years and suns that flare without warning. I promise you I can handle 2 moons in the sky." She did not smile back. The first moon rose slowly, a pale silver disk climbing above the distant hills. Its light spread across the land, turning the dust into a soft blanket of glowing gray. The second moon followed soon after, larger and tinted with a faint blue glow. When they appeared together, the sky seemed to hold its breath. Evan's instruments began to hum. Lights blinked across his wrist display as data streamed in. He felt a familiar thrill, the kind that came with every new discovery. "Look at this," he said, holding up his arm so Lyra could see. "The light patterns are overlapping in ways I've never recorded before." Lyra took a step back instead of forward. "This is when we leave." But Evan had already turned his attention back to the horizon. The land in front of them began to look different. At first it was just a shimmer like heat rising from hot stone. Then shapes started to form where there had been nothing before. Tall lines, smooth curves, soft glows of light that did not come from either moon. Evan's breath caught in his chest. "That's not possible," he whispered. Lyra made a small, frightened sound. "That is why we do not look." A city stood before them. It rose from the empty plain as if it had always been there, waiting to be seen. Towers of clear, glass-like material reached into the sky. Wide paths curved between buildings that glowed from within, lit by a gentle, warm light. There were no doors, no windows, no signs of life, just quiet beauty and perfect stillness. Evan took a step forward without thinking. His boots touched the edge of the nearest path and nothing happened. The ground felt solid, cool beneath his feet. He took another step, then another, slowly walking into the city. "Evan, no," Lyra called. "Do not go in there." He turned back to her, eyes bright. "Lyra, this is incredible. This is history. This is something your world has been hiding maybe for thousands of years." She did not move. Her feet stayed planted at the edge of the desert. "It is not hiding, it is waiting." Evan frowned, but curiosity pulled him forward. He raised a small scanner and waved it over the glowing walls. The device beeped and flashed, clearly confused by what it was reading. "This structure isn't fully in our space," he said to himself. "It's like a reflection layered over reality." The deeper he walked, the clearer the city became. The lights grew brighter, the paths smoother. He could see shapes that looked like benches, tall markers, even something like a fountain made of soft, floating light. "Evan," Lyra called again, her voice trembling. "Please come back." He hesitated. For the first time, he felt a small chill that had nothing to do with the air. The city was beautiful, but it was also empty in a way that felt heavy. Like a room that had been left behind in a hurry. "I'm okay," he said, though he wasn't sure why he felt the need to say it. The sky above the city looked strange. The stars behind the twin moons seemed dimmer, as if something was pulling at their light. Evan checked his display again. The numbers were jumping, changing too fast to track. "Lyra," he said, more seriously now, "I think your people might have been right about this being different." She stepped forward just enough to stand at the edge of the city's light. The glow reflected in her eyes, making them look like small stars. We remember stories, she said, stories of those who followed the light and did not return the same. Evan walked back toward her, stopping just a few steps away. I don't want to take anything from this place. I just want to understand it. Lyra studied his face. His fear was real now, but so was his wonder. After a long moment, she nodded once. Then I will not leave you alone. Together, they took a step into the city. The air inside felt different, softer, thicker. Sounds from the desert faded away, replaced by a deep, quiet hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The lights along the path brightened as they walked, like the city was noticing them. Evan's heart beat faster. It's responding, he said. This place is reacting to us, Lyra swallowed. That is what we fear. They walked past tall structures that curved like frozen waves. Some walls showed faint images, like shadows of people moving long ago. Evan reached out, his hand passing through one of the images without resistance. It's a memory, he whispered. This city isn't here, not fully. It's a moment from the past held in place by the moons. Lyra closed her eyes for a second. Then we are walking inside a ghost. At the center of the city, they saw it. A tower taller than all the rest, glowing brighter than the moons themselves. Light flowed up its sides like slow-moving water. The hum in the air grew stronger, deeper, almost like a voice just out of reach. Evan felt a pull in his chest, not physical but emotional, like standing in front of something that wanted to be known. This is it, he said softly. This is the heart of the city. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. Her touch was light but steady. If we go closer, she said, we may not walk away as the same people. Evan looked at her, then back at the glowing tower. The fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him. Maybe that's not always a bad thing, he replied. Above them, the twin moons shone together, their light crossing and blending in the sky. The stars behind them faded even more, like the universe itself was leaning in to watch what would happen next. And somewhere deep within the tower, a light flared, as if something ancient had finally opened its eyes. The light from the tower spread across the city like a slow sunrise. It did not hurt the eyes, but it made everything clearer, sharper, more real. The glowing paths beneath Evan and Lyra's feet felt warmer now, almost alive. The deep hum in the air grew louder, not as a sound, but as a feeling that pressed gently against their chests. Evan took a slow breath. It's like the city is waking up, he said. Lyra stayed close to him, her hand still resting lightly on his arm. Or like it has been awake this whole time and only now notices us. The tower stood in front of them, tall and smooth, its surface made of flowing light instead of solid walls. Shapes moved inside it, soft and slow, like clouds drifting behind glass. Evan raised his scanner again, but this time the device did not beep or flash. It went dark as if it had given up. Well, Evan said with a small laugh, trying to ease his nerves, I guess I'm on my own now. He stepped forward. The moment he crossed an invisible line, the hum changed. It became lighter, almost musical. The light around the tower opened into a wide entrance, though no door appeared. It was simply a space where the light pulled back, inviting them in. Lyra hesitated. Her people's stories echoed in her mind, stories of those who followed the moons and returned different, quieter, distant. But Evan did not rush. He turned back to her, his expression gentle. We don't have to go in, he said. Not if you don't want to. She looked at the city behind them, at the glowing paths and empty buildings, at the twin moons still shining together in the sky. Then she looked at Evan. If this place truly holds the past, she said, then someone must remember it. If not us, then who? She took a step forward. Inside the tower, the light softened. The space was wide and open, like the inside of a great hall. The floor reflected the glow above, making it feel as if they were standing between two skies of light. There were no walls, only tall streams of brightness that rose and fell like slow-moving pillars. In the center of the hall floated a shape. It was not solid, but it was not empty either. It looked like a cluster of stars held together by invisible lines. Soft waves of light moved through it, changing color from pale gold to deep blue and back again. Evan stopped. His heart beat fast, but not from fear alone, from wonder. That must be it, he whispered. The mind of the city, the memory. The shape shifted. A gentle voice filled the space, not loud, not quiet, but clear inside their thoughts. Travelers, it said, you walk where echoes remain. Lyra gasped softly. Evan's mouth fell open for a moment before he found his voice. Hello, he said, feeling a little foolish but sincere. We didn't mean to disturb you, we just wanted to learn. The light shape pulsed once slowly. To learn is to disturb, it replied, and to disturb is to change. Lyra stepped forward, her voice shaking. Are you alive? I am a record, the voice said. I am a guide. I am what remains when those who built me are gone. Images filled the air around them. The hall faded, replaced by moving scenes of another time. They saw tall beings made of light and shape, working together to build the city. They saw the twin moons in the sky just as they were now, shining down on a world full of life and sound. These were the first builders, the voice said. They shaped memory into space. They feared being forgotten more than they feared being lost. Evan watched in silence, his mind racing. So this city, it's not a warning, he said. It's a message. Yes, the voice replied, but no one listened. Lyra lowered her head. My people thought it was a sign of danger. It is, the voice said gently, and it is also a gift. Danger and gift are often the same. The images changed. The builders began to fade, their forms growing dim. The city grew quiet. The moons drifted apart in the sky. We could not stay, the voice said, so we left ourselves behind. Evan felt a tightness in his chest. Why show this to us now? The light shape turned slightly, its glow focusing on him. Because you came without fear and without worship, it said. You came with questions. Lyra looked at Evan, her eyes wide. It chose you, he shook his head. No, it chose both of us. The voice pulsed again. You walk between worlds, one who remembers and one who wonders. Together you can carry what was left behind. The city outside began to change. Through the open entrance, they could see the glowing buildings growing faint at the edges like mist in the morning sun. Lyra's breath caught. It's fading. The alignment ends, the voice said. The path closes. Evan stepped forward. You can't just disappear. This knowledge, this history, it deserves to live. It can, the voice replied, but not here. Evan thought quickly. His ship, his systems, the Velari networks that shared information across their world. We can store it, he said. We can share it. Let your story become part of the living world, not just a hidden moment in the sky. The light shape was quiet for a long time. The hum in the air slowed, deepened. At a cost, it said. Lyra stepped beside Evan. What cost? You will change, the voice replied. To carry memory is to carry weight. Evan looked at Lyra, then back at the light. We already changed the moment we stepped in here. The voice brightened, filling the hall with warm light. Then listen. Streams of light flowed from the shape, wrapping gently around Evan and Lyra. It did not hurt. It felt like standing in sunlight after a long, cold night. Images, sounds, feelings poured into their minds. Stories of the builder's world, their hopes, their fears, their final choice to become memory instead of dust. Lyra fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face, not from sadness, but from the beauty of what she saw. Evan stood still, his hands clenched at his sides, his breath shallow. He felt like he was holding an ocean inside his chest. Outside, the city continued to fade. The paths dimmed. The towers turned transparent, blending back into the empty desert. The twin moons began to drift apart. The light streams slowly pulled back. The hall returned, quieter now, softer. It is done, the voice said. You carry us. Evan exhaled, feeling both heavier and lighter at the same time. We won't forget, he said. I promise. Lyra stood, wiping her eyes. My people will listen, she said. I will make sure of it. The voice gave one last gentle pulse. Then our waiting ends. The tower's light began to fade. The entrance behind them opened wider, guiding them out. They stepped back into the desert just as the last of the city vanished. Where glowing paths and towers had stood, there was only quiet sand and soft moonlight. The hum in the air disappeared. The sky felt wide again. Lyra looked around, then up at the twin moons. They were still beautiful, but no longer frightening. They were never something to fear, she said softly. They were something to remember. Evan nodded. And now so are we. In the distance, his ship waited, small and dark against the glowing horizon. A bridge between worlds, just like them. As they walked back together, the stars behind the moons slowly returned, one by one, lighting the sky with quiet promise. Somewhere in the vast universe, an ancient story had found new voices. And it was only the beginning. The desert was quiet again. Only the soft wind moved across the sand, leaving thin lines behind like the world was slowly drawing over what had just been erased. Evan and Lyra walked side by side toward the distant shape of his ship. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The memories they carried felt too large for simple words. When they reached the ship, its lights turned on by themselves, sensing Evan's approach. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the familiar hum of human technology felt strange now, small and simple compared to what they had just left behind. Evan stepped in first. Lyra followed, looking around with careful eyes. She had been inside the ship before, but now everything felt different, like she was seeing it through new senses. Evan moved to the main console and sat down. His hands hovered over the controls, unsure where to begin. "Are you all right?" Lyra asked. He nodded slowly. "I think so. It just feels like my head is full of 1,000 voices, all talking at once." Lyra placed a hand on the wall for balance. "I feel like my heart is full of 1,000 lives." They shared a small, tired smile. Evan took a deep breath and started the ship's systems. Screens lit up around them, filling the room with soft blue light. He opened the data link between his ship and the Velari network, the system Lyra's people used to share knowledge across their cities. "This is where we begin," he said. "If the memory stays only with us, it will fade, but if we share it, it can live." Lyra nodded. "My people have been afraid of the moons for so long, they will be afraid of this too." Evan looked at her. "Will you stand with me when we tell them?" She did not hesitate. "I will." The first transfer began slowly. Streams of light appeared on the screens, forming shapes and symbols that changed faster than Evan could read. The ship systems worked hard, adjusting and translating, turning ancient memory into something the Velari network could hold. Outside, the twin moons continued to drift apart, their light growing softer, less intense. The sky returned to its normal calm, as if nothing strange had happened at all. But inside the ship, the past was coming alive. Lyra closed her eyes as images from the builders' world passed through her mind again. She saw their cities filled with sound and movement. She felt their joy, their fear, their hope that someone someday would remember them. "They trusted us," she said quietly. Evan glanced at her. "Then let's be worthy of that trust." Hours passed. The stars moved slowly across the sky. The desert grew cooler as night deepened. Finally, the last stream of data settled into place. The system chimed softly. "It's done," Evan said. His voice was tired but steady. "The memory is in the network. Your people can access it from anywhere." Lyra opened her eyes. Tears shone in them, but she smiled. "You have given us a gift greater than safety. You have given us understanding." Evan leaned back in his chair. "We did it together." A message appeared on the main screen, a Velari Council signal. "They already know something happened," Lyra said. "The network felt the change." Evan nodded. "Ready?" She took a deep breath. "As I will ever be." The screen shifted, showing a group of Velari elders gathered in a wide, circular hall. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp and curious. "Lyra," one of them said, "the night sky has returned to normal, but our systems are filled with something new. Explain." Lyra stepped forward, standing beside Evan so they were both in view. "We walked into the light," she said. "We listened." The elders exchanged quiet looks. Evan spoke next. "The city was not a warning. It was a memory left behind by a lost people. They wanted to be remembered, not feared." One elder tilted their head. "And you believed this?" Lyra met their gaze. "I did more than believe. I felt it. I lived it." She reached out and activated the shared memory. The hall on the screen filled with light and motion as the elders saw what Evan and Lyra had seen. The builders' world unfolded before them. Their rise, their fading, their final choice to become a message written in the sky. Silence followed. Finally, one elder spoke, their voice softer than before. "We have been closing our doors to the past," they said, "and in doing so we closed our minds to the future." Lyra lowered her head. "We feared what we did not understand." The elder looked at Evan. "And you did not." Evan shifted slightly. "I feared it, I just didn't let that stop me." The elder gave a slow nod. "Perhaps that is the difference." The signal ended. Lyra let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That went better than I expected," Evan said. Lyra smiled faintly. "So did I." Days passed. Word spread across the Velari world. People gathered in shared halls and private homes to view the memory of the builders. Fear slowly gave way to wonder. The twin moons no longer meant closed doors and darkened windows. They became a time of stories, of listening, of looking up instead of away. Evan stayed longer than he had planned. He walked through Velari cities with Lyra, watching how her people changed. Children pointed at the sky and asked questions instead of running inside. Artists painted the glowing city from memory. Teachers spoke of the builders as distant friends instead of forgotten ghosts. One evening, Evan and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking a wide valley. The sun was setting, turning the world gold and red. You could leave now, Lyra said. Your work here is done. Evan shook his head. I don't think it is, not yet. She studied him. What are you looking for? He thought for a moment. The builders didn't just leave a memory, they left a way of thinking. A way of reaching across time. I want to help your people use that, not just remember it. Lyra smiled. You sound like one of us. He laughed softly. Maybe that's the problem. The sky darkened and the first stars appeared. One of the moons rose, then the other, not aligned, just peaceful in their slow paths. Lyra looked up. Do you think the builders can see us? Evan followed her gaze. If they can, I hope they're proud. A soft light flickered on the horizon, not the city, not the tower. Just a small, steady glow from a Velari research station built where the city had once stood. They're building there now, Lyra said. A place to study the memory, a place to welcome visitors. Evan smiled. A bridge. Yes, she said, just like you. They stood in silence, watching the stars fill the sky. Somewhere deep inside both of them, the voice of the ancient record echoed softly, not as words, but as a feeling. A reminder that nothing truly ended as long as someone chose to remember. And somewhere beyond the light of the twin moons, in the vast dark between worlds, new stories were already waiting to be found. The valley below the balcony was filled with quiet light. Small lamps from the Velari research station glowed like fallen stars on the ground. The twin moons hung apart in the sky, no longer touching, no longer changing the world with their alignment. Yet something had changed anyway. Evan leaned against the railing, watching the soft movement of people far below. Lyra stood beside him, her hands resting calmly at her sides. They are not afraid anymore, she said. Evan nodded. Fear doesn't disappear, it just learns to share space with curiosity. Lyra smiled at that. You speak like a teacher now. He laughed softly. Maybe I've learned something. The wind carried the sound of voices from the station. Velari researchers and visitors from other nearby worlds had begun to arrive. News of the Memory City and the builders had spread far beyond Karis. Ships came not to take, not to claim, but to listen. Evan's ship rested nearby, its surface reflecting the moonlight. It had been ready to leave for days, but he had stayed. Not because he was ordered to, and not because he was needed. He stayed because he wanted to see what came next. Lyra turned to him. You will leave soon, won't you? Evan did not answer right away. He looked at the sky, at the endless stretch of stars. Yes, he said finally. There are other places, other questions. She nodded. I knew you would say that. They walked down from the balcony and made their way toward the station. The path was wide and smooth, lit by soft lights placed along the edges. Children ran past them, laughing, pointing up at the moons and then at the glowing building ahead. Inside the station, the air was filled with quiet energy. Large screens showed images from the memory of the builders, their cities, their faces made of light and shape, their final message. A group of visitors stood in a circle, listening as a Velari guide explained the story. The guide's voice was calm and proud. They feared being forgotten, the guide said, so they chose to become a bridge across time. Evan and Lyra stood at the edge of the group, listening. Evan felt a strange warmth in his chest. The memory was no longer just something he carried. It belonged to everyone now. An elder approached them, walking slowly but with steady steps. Evan, hail, they said. Lyra bowed her head slightly. Evan gave a small nod. We have made a decision, the elder continued. We wish to send a message to other worlds, not a warning, an invitation. Evan raised his eyebrows. An invitation to what? To remember, the elder said, and to share. We have spent too long believing that safety comes from closing ourselves away. You showed us another way. Lyra looked at Evan, her eyes shining. You changed us, he shook his head. You were ready to change, I just walked at the right moment. The elder smiled. Then perhaps you will walk with our message as well. Evan thought about it. He imagined his ship traveling from world to world, carrying the story of the builders and the Velari, carrying proof that fear could become connection. I can do that, he said, but I won't be the only one. The elder tilted their head. What do you mean? I mean, Evan said, that other people will come here, they'll learn, and then they'll carry the story even farther. This doesn't belong to me, it belongs to anyone who listens. The elder considered this, then nodded. That is how stories become stronger. Later that night, Evan stood inside his ship, preparing for departure. The engines were quiet, waiting. Lyra stood at the doorway, watching him pack small tools and personal items. You don't carry much, she said. Evan smiled. Most of what matters doesn't fit in a bag. She stepped inside, looking around one last time. My people will speak of you for many years. He felt a little uncomfortable at that. I hope they speak of what we found, not just who found it. Lyra walked closer. They will speak of both, because both matter. Evan stopped what he was doing and looked at her. You could come with me. Her eyes widened slightly. Leave Karis, just for a while, he said. See other skies, other worlds. Share your story yourself instead of letting others tell it for you. She was quiet for a long time. The ship's soft lights reflected in her dark eyes. My place is here, she said gently, but my voice can travel through you. Evan nodded, understanding. Then I'll carry it carefully. They walked outside together. The moons were higher now, their light washing over the desert. The research station glowed behind them, full of life and sound. Lyra placed a small object in Evan's hand. It was smooth and warm, shaped like a tiny version of the twin moons locked together. A memory token, she said, so you do not forget where this began. He closed his fingers around it. As if I ever could. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. Evan stepped inside, then turned back one last time. Lyra, he said, thank you for trusting me even when you were afraid. She smiled. Thank you for listening. Even when you were not. The door closed. The ship lifted slowly into the air, its light casting long shadows across the sand. Lyra watched as it rose higher, becoming a small star among many. Evan guided the ship into the sky, past the twin moons, into the wide, waiting dark. The stars stretched out before him like a map with no end. He set a course not to a single world, but to many. Each stop would be a chance to share the story. Each listener would become another bridge. As the ship moved through space, Evan held the memory token in his hand. He thought of the builders, of their city of light, of their hope that someone would remember. On Karis, Lyra returned to the station. She joined a group of children sitting in a circle, their faces turned up toward her. Tell us again, one of them said. Tell us about the city in the sky. She smiled and began. Far away on a distant world, Evan stood before a new group of listeners, different shapes, different voices, the same wide eyes. He told them about the twin moons, about the city that appeared and faded, about a people who chose to become a memory instead of a shadow. And so the story traveled, not as a warning, not as a legend meant to frighten, but as a light meant to guide. Across worlds, across time, across the quiet dark between the stars, humanity and many others learned something simple and powerful, that the greatest mark anyone could leave on the universe was not a monument of stone or light. It was a story carried forward by those willing to listen.